Okay, welcome to this videotape version of the review for the exit ticket on classes. So let's jump right into it. So we had the first example was, or the first question was, what will happen when the code below is run? Right, we have a class, post, we have a constructor, we have this username, setting up the properties of the instance with the arguments that get passed to the constructor. And we can see here that we create a new instance of post called myPost, and we pass in random user01 as the username, and we pass first exclamation mark as the message for that instance. And then we say, okay, console log myPost that message. So the options here were it will log first, it will log message to the console, it will give a syntax error because there shouldn't be the keyword new before the constructor, and it will give error because there shouldn't be the keyword new before post. So let's see. In this case, and I know that you didn't have this privilege in the exit ticket, which is to have your text editor help you. But the first thing I would note here that I have on my text editor is that new has a squiggly line, and if I hover over it, it says unexpected token, constructor method accessor property was expected. But the important thing is that we see that once there is the squiggly line, and that oftentimes means we have something wrong. And that is precisely what we had here. So we shouldn't be using the new keyword followed by the constructor function. What we have is, in the class definition, what we should have is the new keyword once we want to create a new instance of post, in this case called myPost. We use the new keyword for creating a new instance, a new object out of the post class with these two arguments to the constructor. So again, we use the new instance only when we want to create a new instance of that class. So here, if we run this code, what we will see is it will give us a syntax error because there shouldn't be the keyword new before the constructor. So let's see that. This code is node exit ticket. When we see the error in our message, and it says new, and then the constructor, and that's this kind of pointing to the constructor, and it says unexpected identifier. This is the error that this answer was suggesting. So for number one, this was the correct answer. It will break, we give an error because this new keyword should not be there. Got it? Cool, let's move on to the second question. The second question was, which of the code blocks below will log the following to the console? And this is the following. It will log first, followed by the three tildes, and then name random user. Oops. So let's see what we have here. We have a class post. So which of the code blocks below will log the following to the screen? So we're seeing which one of the following will log first the word first, and then the squiggly lines and random user01. So let's see which one. We have a class post here, constructor username. We have username and message that are going to be assigned. Username here and message are going to be assigned whatever we pass in as arguments to the constructor. That looks all fine. And then we have log description that is going to console log this.message and print a new empty line, and then console log also this.username. Okay, so let's see where did it go? Let's look at what the over here. Let's look at, I'll comment these two lines and let's see. Okay, so we are looking for what will log first and random user01. So let's see, we create a new post here we call that post my post, and we pass in random user as the username. We pass in first as the message. Okay. So that means that my post will be an object that contains as many keys as we see here, which is 1, 2, and 3. Username, message, and money. Username will be random user 01, and message will be first. Right? Okay, and then we have this function called my post log description. Let's see what log description does. So log description is going to console log this dot message. In this case, it will be first. That's what came in as message. Then it will log a new empty line. And then, so yeah, here, this is what it will log is, oops, like this. It will first log first, then one entire empty line, and then random user. And then, okay, so it's going to log console log this out message. That's going to be first. Okay, that matches that description here. Then the new empty line, that matches this one that we see here. And then it's going to log this dot message followed by the 3 squiggle lines. Now let's look at what is this dot message, this dot username, sorry. It will be the first argument passed to the constructor. Now we look here that the first argument passed to the constructor is random user 01. So indeed this will first console log message, in this case, first exclamation point. And then new line, this will be the new line, and then username. Username will be user random 01. So this was one of the valid answers for question number 2 in the exit ticket. This will console log these 2 lines to the screen, as we call log description in my post. Okay, let's look at the third, or not the third. Here we had a, I think I removed the B. B was an option. Or maybe I just skipped. Did I skip it? Let's just look at C. Let's see if C is a valid option. So C, we see a few differences if we look at them side by side. Let's see, let's put this side by side. Let's see A side by side with C. The first thing that we note is we are in A, we have this, that username, and here we're missing completely that. And that is very important because if we don't use this keyword inside of the constructor, then that means that we're not really assigning a key username to the instance once we create an instance. Okay, everything else seems to be the same. Log description. This is that message, this new line, squiggle line, and username. Okay, something else that we note here is like this constructor is expecting a name passed in, or rather the body of the constructor has something called name, but we're not passing in anything in the parameters to the constructor. So this will probably also break here, saying name is not defined. And it tries to save that to something called username, but again, because this is missing the this keyword that we see here, is going to fail. Okay. Actually, let's see. Let's try A. We didn't run A. We wanted to run A. Nope. Let's run A and let's see what we have. No, exit ticket. Oh, I'll need to. Here, let's fix this one, which was removing that. Let's go. Let's test A by no exit ticket. See what error do we have. Post has already been declared. Right. Okay. Let's just comment this out. That was question 1. Question 2, we are trying to see if A will work. Okay, we get first and random user, right? This was what we were waiting for here. First, empty line, random user. Okay, we saw that A worked correctly. We knew that. Let's look at C. Let's comment out now A. And let's look at C. Let's see what we have. Exit ticket. Oh, nothing happens. As we see, let's make sure that is nothing else that is causing nothing to happen. But no exit ticket. Oh, I forgot to create the instance and call the method. Create the instance and call the method. Let's try now. Okay, we have an error, and then we say name is not defined, right? Even here, if we had put, let's see. Oh, we're gonna see on the next one. So the problem here was that we had something named that was not defined, was not being passed in the constructor here, and we also forgot to do the this.username here, the way that A has it. Okay, that's number C. So number C was not a valid answer. It breaks. Now let's look at number D. Let's see this one. The first thing that we notice is that we're missing the this keyword here as well compared to C. Oh, same as C, we're missing the this keyword, and then we have, instead of having a variable called name, we are sort of the string random user1 hard-coded here, and the string first hard-coded here to name. Everything else, log description is the same. Let's create an instance of this one, and let's see what we get. Oh, seems that is breaking as well. Okay, now it's in the other side. It's saying this line is breaking, line 61 of exit ticket. We go to line 61 of exit ticket, and we say username equal random user 01, and we say then JavaScript or Node is complaining saying username is not defined, right? So we're missing this keyword here in this case, and we have then JavaScript is trying to find a variable called username, and it doesn't find it anywhere because, well, we don't have a variable called username anywhere else in our program or outside. What we wanted was to create this key called username in the instance of the object, in the instance of the class, but because we were missing the this keyword here, that was not created. Therefore, username is not defined. Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Let's comment this out. Oh, I don't know why it's doing this. Comment this out. Let's go to the third one. So what will happen when the code block below is run? We have a class called square, a constructor. That constructor is expecting side length. We just save that side length, we save it to a property in the instance called side length. And that's pretty much it. And so we have a static method, number of sides, and we just return 4. Well, we know that all squares have 4 sides, right? So that makes sense that this is a static method that's not going to change, is not unique to the instance, sort of an utilitarian function. So let's see what will happen when the code block below is run. And then we create a square instance, and we console our. This one's not here. We create a square instance called mySquare. We pass in 5, so that 5 will become the side length. That is to say that if we were to do console.mySquare.sideLength, we will see 5. But in this case, what we're trying to do is console log my square number of sides. Okay, but we see that, well, number of sides is a static method in the square class, right? And in class we talked about static methods are not inherited by the instance. That is to say, my square here will not have a number of sides property or method, because number of sides is a static method. So if we try to do this, well, so the question was, it will log 4, it will log 5, cause a syntax error because the keyword new doesn't appear in static. No, that doesn't make sense. We shouldn't need to have a keyword here called new. The last one is, we will log undefined to the console because number of sides needs to have an argument passed into it. Oh, that was the last one. This is also not true. Let's close this one here. It will log undefined to the console because number of sides needs to have an argument passed to it. This is not true because if we look at number of sides, it's not expecting any arguments here. So it will not log undefined. The one that I kind of missed was this one, the one in the middle. It will log undefined to the console because number of sides is not defined for an instance of square. And that's correct. Now let's try to run it. I know you couldn't do this in your exit ticket, but this is just to verify the answer. We get undefined. Again, it's because my square has only one property, and that property is side length here. This class doesn't have any other non-static methods, like the one we saw here, like log description here will be a non-static method, right? It doesn't have the static keyword. If we have a non-static method, the instance my post will have a log description method. But here we have a static method, and static methods are not inherited by the instance. That is to say, my square here will not have a number of sides. And therefore here is as if we were saying, okay, my square dot number of sides, and then we saw that when we try to key into a property of an object that doesn't exist, we get undefined. Cool, let's move on to the last one, and that is what will happen when the code block below is run. We have a class user constructor, we're passing in a name. We are going to save that name as a property in the instance called name, and then it has admin status, which by default will start as false. Okay, then we have a method called delete all databases. This is a non-static method. Therefore, we also call these methods an instance method. Then the instance method is checking if this that has admin status is true. Remember that we don't need to do this. If this part is already returning true or false, we don't need to kind of sort of check again. We can just say this. If this has admin status, then console log deleted. Otherwise, console log you don't have admin status. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. Then we have another class called super user that extends the user class. So everything that the user class has, super user will have as well. And then we can see here that it has a constructor. That constructor is expecting a name. That name is just passed into super, which will just call the parent constructor. In this case, the constructor for the user class, initializing that, and then we had defined an instance property called has admin status, and this one we set to true. Okay, so let's keep that in mind, and let's see what we have here. uncomment this. Here we're creating an instance called user of the super user class, and that's going to be called Lex Murphy. And then we're doing user that delete all databases. And now the question is, will it log deleted? Will it log you don't have admin status? Will it log undefined? It will cause a syntax error because has admin status can be overwritten by the super class, or it will cause a syntax error because super user shouldn't have the new keyword before it. The answer here is it will log deleted. Let's find out why. So here the concept that this was trying to test for is overriding properties defined by the parent class. So what does that mean? That means that super user extends from user. So everything that super user everything that super user will have comes also from user. Or in other words, once we create this instance of user, this instance called user that is coming from that is being made out of the super user, this instance user will have not only everything that super user has, but because super user stems from user, it will also have everything that user has, right? Okay, so then we see that the key part here is this line basically. It has we have the constructor, we have the super. We know that this is going to initialize a new instance. Super is going to call the constructor in the parent, and then we have this that has admin status equal to true. So what this line here is causing, because we have the same line in the parent class, is overriding. This line is overriding the parent class, meaning anything that was made out of super user, instead of having has admin status as false, will have has admin status as true. And this is what we call property overriding properties in the parent class. Here, super user is overriding the has admin status property from the parent class, and this is totally fine. Like in a lot of cases, we want that. Like this is a good example of that. We could have users that are of different ranks in our application, and if it's a super user, in that case, we want to not start like as a regular user with no admin status. We want it to actually have the admin status, and then therefore here we override that property from the user from false to true. So now here, when we do user will have what properties will user have? We will have two properties. It will have a name given by the parent class, and it will have a has admin status given by the child class. The parent class would try to define has admin status as false, but then when JavaScript says that the child class has also trying to also set the same key, it will use the child class property and value. So user will have a name equal to Lex Murphy and has admin status equal to true. So that's important to note here. Let's actually see that in action. If we do not that, let's see that. So we have a super user, Lex Murphy, and has admin status true. Okay, we verify that. Now, if we do, now the question is, what will this log? User delete all databases. So let's take a look at that. We can see that user that delete all databases, or rather delete all databases, is not a method that we define in the superclass, right? But again, because superclass extends user, everything that user has, super user will have. And let's look at what a user has. The user has indeed the delete all databases method that is going to check the instance property has admin status. And if that is true, just console logs deleted, otherwise you don't have admin status. So here the important thing is that, okay, the delete all databases comes from the parent class, right? And then is inherited to the instance. In this case, that instance is called user, right? And because, well, user was made out of super user, right? And super user extends user, so everything that that user has, super user will have, right? And then this is a non-static method, therefore it will be inherited by the instance. And once we create the instance, then we see that once we call the method, this method is going to be called in the user, right? And because again, super user was made out of, or user was made out of super user, and super user extends the user class. User class has the delete all databases. Now, once we call delete all databases in user, is when we see that, well, what does delete all databases is doing is checking the instance property has admin status, and if it's true, then it's just going to console log deleted. We saw here that the instance value has admin status will be true indeed. Therefore, when we console log, or once we call user that delete all databases, we will see deleted log to the console. So let's try to run that. Let's verify that. There we go. We see deleted to the console. That undefined might be something else on top. Yeah, something here. But it will log deleted. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If there is anything that was not too clear, we could re-explain it. But that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.